coming up to one of my favorite times of the year. I love the social aspect of it and like catching up with my friends and family and having big like dinner and brunch catch-ups and beach days. I do love a good tablescape, so I'm going to focus on all the sewing. That includes the tablecloth, the placemats, the napkins, the bonbons, and then if I have any leftover material, I might make some cute little coasters. And then I'm collaborating with Jahan, who you have met on a previous video. She is the styling and DIY decor queens, and she can do the final styling touches. And also we've made it a bit fun, so she has given me a brief of what suits her theme of festivities this year, and I'm gonna go out and get all the materials and make things to suit that, and she's not gonna know what I'm getting, and then she's going to unbox it, unveil it, and then she can style it however she ends up wanting to. Jahan's brief was no blues or purple. She likes pinks, greens, whites, browns, terracotta, and neutrals. I'm gonna keep my eye out for those. I guess we'll see what we get and then we start making. I've got my bag full of supplies. I also stopped into a cute new cafe along the way, Long Black, to get me energized for what we're about to get into. And then also they had little pastries and stuff. So I'm so glad I actually went there and got to touch the fabric and see it and like lay it out together so I could see how the colors complement each other, because when I was looking at this stuff online, what I had in mind actually didn't look that great in real life. Maybe I smashed this pie because I feel like I don't want to have sticky fingers for that. Pie time and then fabric time. I ended up coming across this linen, which is white, and I think it comes up nice and crisp as the main bottom section, but then it also has like these nice beige stripes along it, and her home is like very minimal coastal as well, so I feel like that's a great base and also use it for years to come. I thought I could then add the bold details on top of that. So then the placemats, I ended up getting these three materials. I'll probably just do trimmings of the pink. I know Jahan personally loves pink, and also her family are all into it as well. It's going to be double-sided, so these are going to be the main front and back, so if she ends up wanting to style it a bit more minimal, she can have the pink and kind of like off-white / natural tone, whereas if she wants to be a bit more creative with her final details, she can go this kind of like rusty illustrated finish with the pink trimming around the edges. All of these so far are either pure linen or a linen cotton blend. And then I got this beautiful kind of like sage tone for the napkins. And I'm gonna fold these in a cute way so they look like a Christmas tree. So that's everything I got from the shops. Something I prepared earlier. Last night I cut up some limes and oranges, and I put them in our dehydrator. Now if you also want to do this and you don't have a dehydrator, I'm pretty sure there are brands out there where you can buy containers full of already pre-dried citrus fruits. Obviously the green of the lime is quite festive, could look cute on top of the bonbons, and then the orange as well. When I fold the napkins to be kind of like a little tree, then they'll like sit at the top of the tree somehow. Cute! I thought I would start out on something nice and easy, so first up I'm going to do the napkins. Originally I thought I would do the tablecloth first, but I feel like I have a few ideas for the finishing details of that, and I kind of want to see how these pieces come together, and that will help determine how I finish the tablecloth. For these I'm just going to cut out some squares about 50 centimeters or 20 inches either side, and then I'm just going to do a double fold for each of the edges. So there's two ways I could have gone about this. Obviously I can just do the straight up double fold and literally just overlap the corners when I get to them. Otherwise what I did is I measured in 1 inch from each of the corners and then trimmed between these two lines to cut the angle off. From there I then just folded this over 1/2 inch and continued the double fold along the side edges. Then you'll see when the double folds meet at this corner, it then just creates a nice clean finish. So then I just repeated this process of doing a single fold on the corner and then a double fold on each of the edges for the whole parameter of this napkin, and then jumped on the machine and began sewing along one straight edge, and then turned the corner by leaving the needle in the fabric, lifting the foot, turning the fabric, and then putting the foot back down and continuing sewing along the next line. I did this for all of the 4 edges of the napkin, and that was essentially done. And of course, if you happen to want to do this yourself and you are wondering about how much fabric to get, just figure out how many of the pieces you'll be needing for your table setting, and then figure out the measurements of whatever you're creating, say whether that's napkins or placemats, and then figure out how much you can fit on however however many yards or meters you get from the fabric shop. Then when it comes to the folding process, I cannot claim this to be an original idea at all. I literally stumbled across a post on Instagram and took inspiration from that. So shout out to Elle Decoration France. Now that I have the square all ready to go, I folded it over in half once and then over in half again. Then the top edges, which are all open and able to fold down, I then just folded each of them down towards the opposing corner and spaced them out evenly to fill in this area. Then we just fold along from the top center to one of the side centers and repeat that on both sides, and then just begin tucking those pointed tips down under each of the sections so that they fit in there nice and snug, and played around with the evenness of them all and got it all looking nice and clean. And this is how it turned out. It's so cute. It's like a little Christmas tree and a napkin. And this is where I thought the dried oranges could come in handy in laying them on top if Jahan feels like doing that in her styling process. So now it is time for the placemats. I've been trying to think of ways to do this differently. I don't want to just do the regular like square or rectangle. And then I was thinking, do I do round? Do I do kind of like squiggly? So my goal with this is they're going to be like an arch or like a semicircle style, and the terracotta pattern and the more natural color are going to be the main inner sections, and then that more brighter pink that I have, I'm going to make the border slash binding slash however you want to describe that of the arch, and they're going to be double-sided. It all makes sense in my head, so let's see how we go. To figure out the sizing, I just grabbed a plate from my kitchen because obviously we want plates to be able to sit on the placemats comfortably. From there, I just traced a dome around the plate. You can see I just placed my fabric chalk on the edge of a roll of thread because that ended up being about an inch wide, and I wanted this arch to be offset by an inch of the plate. Traced the top circle section, continued down straight until it was in line with pretty much the bottom of the plate, and then drew that bottom straight line. Cut out this first dome piece and made sure that it was nice and symmetrical by folding it in half, and then I made any changes if need be. Then used this first dome as a template to cut out the rest of them. Because I am doing these double-sided and I want 6 of them, that means I need to cut out 12 of these pieces. It was then time to prepare the outer edges. Of course, again, if you are following along this and you don't like the trimming look, you can always just cut the initial dome with like 2 to 3 inches extra around the plate, but I was going for this contrasting style to just add a bit more character. So around this dome, I measured 2 inches and traced a line around there, cut out this section, and then from this outer line I measured in 3 inches. So that first section was 2 inches, and now this is 3 inches, so that we make the inner edge a little bit inset, so that way that 1 inch difference will allow for a bit of overhang and seam allowance for me to be able to add this outer arch onto the inner dome. Again, I just use this first piece as a template to then cut out the rest of the pieces, keeping in mind that I will need 6 for one side and 6 for the other sides. I think I had a bit of fun with this and alternated between the different patterns so that Jahan had a bit of choice. Then when it comes time to adding it on, I just folded each of these panels in half and marked the center point so that I could then align these both from there. Once I'd placed that mark, I then just folded the outer arch so that it is laying on top of the center section and the good sides are facing, and then I pinned that first center point in place and continued pinning around, matching the good sides and the outer edges all the way around. As you can see, the arch ends up being quite bunched up because it is being pushed away from its normal curve. Yeah, it can kind of get a little bit bunched up and messy at this point, but we just got to embrace that and keep pinning around. Once I was happy with the placement of that, I then just jumped on the machine and sewed a line around this edge, securing the outer arch onto the centerpiece. Now the first and last sections are quite easy because they're essentially just straight lines, but then when it does start to get to the curved edges, it does involve a bit of maneuvering and making sure that I'm not sewing over any bunched up sections, and just making sure that everywhere that I sew is nice and flat and the bunched up areas are not getting stuck under my sewing line. Before flipping it around, I just trimmed off any excess seam allowance, and then every 1 to 2 inches along that curved section, I just snipped a little section in the seam allowance. By doing this, it just helps give the curved section just a bit of ease, so when I do go to fold it out, it just sits nice and flat and how it should. As always with curved edges, as I unfold this, it generally just wants to sit quite puffy and not flat, so I did grab my iron and flatten it before I showed this part. Just keep that in mind, the material takes a bit of time to settle in. I then just continued the process of joining the arch onto the inner centerpiece for all of the front and back side pieces. Once they were all complete, it was then just time to create the final bottom section of these arches. So I cut out a rectangle which matched the width of my full arch connected now and made it about 3 inches high to replicate the width of the rest of this border edge that I have created so far. And then just laid this rectangle good sides facing onto the arch and just sewed along this bottom section, joining it together. I repeated this process for the rest of the pieces, joining this bottom section on, and then it was time for the final step. So once I'd figured out which pairings I wanted for the front and back, I laid down one of the pieces with the good sides facing up and then laid down the opposing piece with the good sides facing down. Now to sew these together, my plan was to start at one edge, sew pretty much entirely around the border of this, and then making sure to stop about 2 to 3 inches from where I started. And that gap is just going to allow for us to be able to push the good sides out and reveal all those nice clean edges, and then I can close it up in the next step. One little side note that I'll add here that I didn't do for this one that I filmed, but I did for the rest of them. Ideally, grab some pins and just pin in a few key places as well so that the curves aren't moving around and it stays all nice and matching. And if the arches are offset by a couple of millimeters or maybe a couple of centimeters, that is all good. Just make sure that it is aligned in the center, and then you can just trim off any excess seam allowance before moving forward. So once that was complete, and then just began the process of pushing the good sides out. I just had to keep in mind to be quite gentle at this point because I didn't want to force it out and break the thread that I have just sewn. So I took it nice and easy, and then once it was all out, just made sure that the edges were sitting all nice and flat and how they should, and pushed out all the corner tips and side edges. Then the final step is to fold in the edges from that gap that we pushed this placemat out through, and then just do a top stitch as close as I can to the edge around the whole border of this placemat. Also, before jumping on the machine, I just made sure to switch my thread to a color that I was happy to sit on top of the material. I didn't realize that my camera had died, so that is all I filmed with the sewing part, but essentially this is what it ends up looking like. Finished the placemats and I'm so happy with them, and I can't wait for Jahan to see them. I've split it into 2 sections of 3, and each of them have got different like combinations on either side for the trimming and that center arch section, so she can kind of pick and choose what patterns she wants to intermingle to suit her setting, and I think they're really fun. If you can hear like cicadas in the background, it's summer here at the moment and they are just going mad and are unavoidable in all the audio. But next up, it is time for the bonbons. So for this I needed some rolls to create the cylinder. Now I just ended up using some old toilet paper rolls, or you could use old paper towel rolls. Then I had some string, my dried fruit for styling, something to wrap the bonbons in, and then little fun things to hide within them. To figure out how much bonbon wrapping to cut out, I just laid down my cardboard cylinder and cut out roughly 5 widths of the cylinder and about 3 heights of the cylinder, and then just use this as a template to cut out the rest of the pieces. Just a little side note, you can do so many different finishes for this. I just ended up using craft paper because I thought it would blend in well with the rest of the fabric, as well as just utilizing what I already had around home. I've definitely seen other people use napkins or just various fabrics, so don't be afraid to get a bit creative if you want to use something different. Next up, for things to put inside the bonbon, I thought creating one of those little fun crown hats could be a good idea. I don't know, is this an Australian thing or is that a universal thing? I don't know. But anyway, I thought it could be a nice touch to create my own and put them in there for the family. To do this, I just measured the circumference of my head and used this for the length, and then for the height, for a few inches high, and began by zigzagging up and down along the top length. Then I just simply matched up the end pieces, popped a bit of glue along there, and waited for that to dry. And that means I have some little gold crowns to put in there. Some other ideas is you could put some positive affirmations or quotes in there, or even jokes. I just ended up using some leftover craft paper, but you could definitely do it in more aesthetically pleasing finishes. Candies, toys or crayons for the kids, especially if you're using craft paper, which they can just draw all over afterwards. Whatever else is cute and small and will fit in a bonbon. I then just inserted these into the cardboard cylinder, wrapped it up in the craft paper, and then squeezed closed either end. To help secure this, I then just trimmed out enough string to tie around this, and then just attached the dried limes onto there for a nice little finish. The benefit of using craft paper and also having some crayons that I bought for the kids is that I could write everyone's names on these, and they could double up as name cards on the table. I had this idea pop up because I had all these bits of scrap fabric from cutting out the angles of those placemats. I thought I could try and make some cute coasters. I cut out these little like daisy shapes in the green and the pink, kind of leaving it raw and doing zigzag stitches or overlocking the edges. I feel like it kind of looks messy. I feel like Jahan would love this idea, but it's kind of cute actually. Maybe I just do that and throw it in there anyway. Essentially, to do this, I just found a picture of a simple daisy shape. I grabbed a bit of paper, traced around it, and then used that bit of paper to trace out each of these daisy pieces. Obviously, I made sure that it was wide enough for a cup to actually fit on there, and then just put them on top of each other and zigzag stitched on the edge for that finish. Also, I kept all my like little off-cut scraps, and you could cut out shapes of like Christmas trees or stars or something festive, or even just general other shapes, and just kind of sew majority of it, leave a little gap, chop the scrap bits of fabric to be a little bit smaller, and then stuff them into these, and you could create some hanging stuffed decor pieces. My final thing that I need to do before I run to the post office today to send this all to Jahan is finish the tablecloth. Originally I was thinking of doing like a scalloped edge. I think it would just be too much, so I'm just going to leave it simple, trim it down to size of the table, making sure that I've got enough on either end so it hangs off the edge of the table a little bit, and literally just double fold it and hem it like I did with the placemats. And then we can pack this baby up and ship it off, and Jahan can unpack it and style it.
It's Jahan here from Small Kitchen, and as you would have just seen, I received this mystery package. I have got no idea what's in it, but I know it's going to be good. I'm so excited. If it's from Maddie, it's destined to be bloody amazing, let's be honest. Oh my god. I've got my laptop. So, note, I'm going to cherish this forever. Bonbon, Jahan, Jason, Celeste, Dusty. Oh my god, we each have a bonbon. That is so cute. Okay, what have we got here? God, I hope this is food. You made these, didn't you, Maddie? Oh my god, unreal. Okay, let's start with napkins, because there's a note here that says napkins. Oh my god, they're folded into little Christmas trees. Okay, so I'm going to read the little note. Thought the dried orange could be a cute accent sitting on top to look like a star on the tree. Okay, so here I was thinking these were for cocktails. Amazing. Mate, you're crazy. You are just insane. It's too much. Look at these coasters. Oh my god, look! They're green on one side, pink on the other, and they're in the shape of a flower. They are, without a doubt, the cutest coasters I've ever seen. So I'm assuming that these, what arched placemats. Oh my god, oh my gosh. And look, they're reversible. I don't even think I'm speaking. Oh my god, it doesn't actually end. I have never seen an arch placemat before. Look how beautiful this is. I'm loving the theme here. Now we've got the tablecloth. Here we go. Oh, that is absolutely perfect. Completely nailed the textures, the prints, the colors, everything. My plan is to create a beautiful table setting with lots of festive cheer that will hopefully give you guys a lot of inspiration for your own table setting on Christmas Day. When it comes to actually styling a table setting, I really like to work in layers. So usually the first thing I do is choose the tablecloth, which thanks to Maddie has actually already been done. So I'll be using this as the foundation, and then I'll be layering everything on top of that. Usually the next thing I do is I will work with the placemats, and then I'll throw in the napkins as well. And then from here I'll add cutlery, plates and other glassware. And then because Maddie has also included some beautiful bonbons, I'll be using these as well. But I'm actually going to throw it back to Maddie and surprise her and throw in some extra pieces myself. It's not only a table that needs to look good, but to me it's also something that needs to feel extremely comfortable and cozy. It's about creating an experience, a memorable moment that will never be forgotten, and I think we may have done this today.